Welcome, listeners, back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I am Dak, and we are reading Elantris, chapters 54 and 60. With me, as always, is...
Data?
Oh, that's me. My bad. Joe!
And Jamie.
Please keep that in. So, yeah, in these chapters, shit goes down. I feel like this is the point where everything we've been waiting for to explode finally does. Lots of big stuff happens right off the bat. Telri and Iandel kill each other. Raiden and Serene are having a nice time together, and then they see that the king is dead, so they quickly rush through coronation. Raiden gets outed as an Elantrian, but people decide to back him anyway. And then Dilaf turns out, indeed, as we suspected, to be from Darkhall Monastery. Not just that, he's also the boss. And he's brought all his goons in. They throw an uprising. They kidnap Raiden, use him to kidnap Serene, stab Raiden through the stomach, and then it turns out that they head off to Teo to blackmail Aventio and kill him, and Dilaf is just going to run roughshod over all of Teo and Arelon. They're just like, nah, we're just going to kill them all, and that's how it's all going to be. And absolutely the biggest thing that happened this week is we found out that Keen is in fact Dreyok fucking Crushthroat. What the hell? Anyway. Buckle up, because the Sanderlanche has really started.
Feed the fire, set me free in this city of dreams. Push my mind into overload. Hack the wire, smash the gene in this city of dreams. We'll be immortal in the code. Mind into overload.
Yeah, so, okay, first off, Dak said 54 and 60. It's 54 through 60, so 54 and 60 inclusive is the chapters that we read.
Is that what I said? Oh, yeah. Dear God.
Yeah, I was gonna. You were on a roll. I didn't want to stop you.
Right, yeah, you didn't want to jump in there. So,
oh, dear God.
In case there was any confusion about that, which I really doubt that anyone would be confused about that. There you go.
Yes, we read chapter 54, skipped a whole bunch, and then got to 60.
That would have been really unfortunate, yeah.
Yeah, it was very jarring.
It's like, man, what did I miss? Everything.
Yeah. Well, because, we're now in the section of the book where things are happening, as Dak said. So even one chapter skipped here might be a little rough. Maybe you could get away with skipping, like, Karathan's chapter. I don't know.
Probably the easiest one to skip would be the one where it's Raiden and Serene on the top of the building. They're having a lovely chat, and then it ends with them finding out Telri and Iandel are dead.
Yeah, that's true.
The next chapter covers that, so you could get away with that, but you probably shouldn't, because it was a really lovely chapter.
And then you wouldn't know she got her hair back. So yeah, that's super important. Anyway, what did you guys think of these 7 chapters this week?
Oh yeah, no, loved them. So much shit going on. Like again, like I've said before, I feel like I've been waiting for stuff to happen, and every time I think it's about to start, it sort of flips back. This is the point where, no, it's all happening and they're playing for keeps, which is a lot of fun. It's nice to get confirmation on a few things like Dilaf, like his real identity, his real agenda. Feel like it's kind of a cheat that, we're just going to start everything a month early. That deadline was a load of bullshit.
I know, right? That's like, hey, that's freaking Viking Pope, am I right? Like, just jumping the gun.
Viking Pope's a welcher. Yeah, no, but like everything happened, like, as I said, like we had a really lovely moment between Raiden and Serene before shit went to hell, which was really nice. Her declaring support for him publicly in front of everyone, despite him being an Elantrian, was incredible. Like that was a really powerful moment. Yeah, no, like on the whole, I thought this was my favorite read of the book so far. Probably because everything happened. I've been waiting so long for it to happen, so it felt so satisfying that everything's coming out. But yeah, on the whole, loved them.
Yeah, so I have a different opinion. Big surprise. I really liked the last section we read. This section, I was just like, jeez, oh man, gosh, darn. Yeah, not a big fan of these chapters. I know when you're reading something, everything's kind of got to go to shit before it gets better, but I feel like this is so abruptly going to shit that it's like, I don't know, just seems not great. A lot of cool things did happen, but I think I enjoyed the previous chapters much more. Plus, and again, we may be in the last section of the book, we may be getting to see what I want, but at this point, it's like we just got the magic going. Like it just started working, and now everything's gone to crap. So it's not super fun for me to see the characters like, you know, they culminating in this moment of like victory, and then like, oh no, victory's gone. We'll have it back, I'm sure, by the end of the book, but you know, everything these people have been working towards very hard for it. It's kind of slipping through their fingers at this point, and so it just kind of sucks. To be honest, I didn't enjoy it. So again, we're about to finish the book. Surely, good will win, but you know, who knows? Maybe not. Brandon's a weird guy, so we'll see.
Yeah, Dilloff is just going to be king of the world or something at the end. He'll kill Viking Pope and take over.
Sure.
We did get an interesting look at what we talked about before, like Dilloff's personal motivation.
Yeah, which
kind of cool.
that's a story that's told by somebody else, isn't it? Like Galadon tells that story at one point in the book.
No, Rowden found it in a book about like when aeons go wrong, basically.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked this set of chapters. I am a sucker for when we start getting all the different viewpoints and things are happening really rapidly. I liked the short snippety bits, and I was like, oh, what's happening here? What's happening here? Oh my god, oh my god. So I really enjoy the way that was written. I do agree things are a bit abrupt, and I have a lot more questions now. I guess as we're wrapping up a story, I feel like things should be coming into place, and now we've had a whole new magic system introduced as well. It's just, and you can basically teleport to where you want to go in this one. It's like, whoa, okay. So yeah, just things. There's some new stuff that I didn't expect to be thrown in right now, but I did really like. I guess I do like that there's some more challenges. I think we lost a few more people than I was expecting to lose right now. You really don't want to be king in this place, do you? It's a bit like musical chairs. And all of a sudden you're playing the game. Yep, you're gone. So yeah, I don't know what they're going to do next there. Crushed throat, man. Wow. I mean, crushed throat. Also, we need to come back to that book because now you've thrown that out there. I need to know more about what's happened here for realsies this time. And I'm kind of pleased we've ended up in Teo. There's not a lot of book left to resolve a lot of things. And I guess I was right about Red and ending up in the lake. I think it was by accident. I'm very interested to see what happens next there. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I love this point of the book where it's just like bang, bang, bang. Things are happening. I'm really keen to keep reading. I want to finish this thing.
Yeah, we're so close. It's hard to not want to just be like, I want to read these last 3 chapters and epilogues. That's all we got left is 3 chapters and an epilogue. So, okay, I guess let's get into these 7 whole chapters that we got this time. I like how we got 1 chapter from the end of part 2 of the book, and then it jumps to part 3. But I thought that the spot that it stopped in, that where we stop at the end of this, that was a nice little cliffhanger to end on. So that was. So we start out with Hrathen being like, I'm sorry, he did what? When he hears that Telri had Roial executed.
Doesn't it seem like so long ago now? So much has happened.
And for us, it was just yesterday. So it was like yesterday we're sitting here like, this is so sad. It's like, I'm going to cry about Roial being dead. And now it's like, man, that was forever ago. Who cares about that guy anymore?
Yeah, that was like 24 hours ago.
I didn't say that. We care about Roial.
Just reminded of that moment in The Rock where like Nicolas Cage's girlfriend says, like, you didn't mean what you just said, did you? And it's like, I meant it at the time. At the time, you said it 7.5 sequends ago. Well, kind of a lot's happened since then.
It's been an eventful 7.5 seconds.
You missed Nick Cage's, well, gosh. Kind of a lot's happened since then.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Man, I'm a massive Nick Cage fan, and my wife just out-caged me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're gonna quote the Cage, you gotta do it. You know what I'm saying?
I just like
you cut me some freaking slack.
He's like, it's like that part in The Rock, and for some reason, of course, the only thing I can think of is "Welcome to the Rock," and I was like, it's not like that part at all. I don't know.
It is not like that in the slightest. That's how the book ends. Sean Connery shows up.
Welcome to the Rock.
I don't know which character he'll play. Like he's the head. No, actually I do. He's the Rose Barbarian, the chieftain.
Yeah.
Sure. He could be keen. Or not.
Welcome
Yeah,
to the
he could be keen. He's kind of old. If he wasn't dead, he would be kind of old for Keen still. But, or Roial. Roial's old dude.
Yeah, but Roial was described as an unattractive man, and
True. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So-
he's this is in poor taste, but he could be an Elantrian because he's dead now.
Okay.
Ow.
Arish.
Marishi, that would be great. I don't know why. It's ridiculous. Oh,
Kinda
Yeah,
like-
that was a real bummer when they described how each of their friends was like
Oh,
basically
yeah.
Yeah.
just ugh.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's messed up.
It was, but that said, like, I'm at least glad we got that moment. There was a moment earlier in the book where it's like Galadon said, "Oh yeah, like me and Karada came back and we found everyone dead, so we ran away." I'm like, is that seriously all the acknowledgement you're going to give of all the characters we've gotten attached to from that group? And like, so I am glad they sort of went back and covered off like these are the people we lost. As horrific as it was nice to get that acknowledgement.
Yeah, that's true. Get something about them.
Yeah, I was worried that they were just gonna like just breeze over them. I'm like, no, don't do that. We're attached to these people now.
Breeze over them. Wrong book, Dak. Come on.
Pick
Hey,
better puns.
I nearly said they were going to basically do a Doxon and just have them die unceremoniously and go unmourned. So
Oh, docs.
I'm
But
never
so
gonna
no, Horathan's sitting here and he's like, at first he's unhappy about this, and he's like, well, actually, once he finds out the circumstance, he's like, oh, actually, this was Telri got lucky. This was a perfect Roial's supposed to be a really crafty guy. Catching him was just amazingly propitious, is how he puts it. Which there's a word you don't get to use very often.
Brandon's got one of those word a day calendars. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm keeping this one.
Exactly.
So he writes his book. How am I going to put this word in today?
But Horathan is also like, he thinks that Serene has gotten a Rowden lookalike basically so that she could get her puppet on the throne. And he's like, that was a great, like, she works fast. Like, she's so good.
So quick. How'd she get this lookalike so quick?
But he's going to go off and try to talk to Telri. But when he gets there, the guards will not let him in. And he's standing there with the two guards outside the door, and he keeps being like, hey, see if the king will see me yet. And the guard's like, fine. And then one time the guard comes back, and it's not the same guy. And the guy who comes out pulls out a sword and kills the other guy who's standing guard. And suddenly there's sounds of sword fighting going on and men screaming. And they're like, oh, shit. Of course, there's a battle on the one night I left my armor behind. Hey, this is what happens. You don't wear your armor, dude.
I was expecting to get injured.
Ever
as a
not wear his
result.
armor?
I don't, yeah, like, I think we have rarely seen him without his armor before.
Doesn't he wear it to go to parties?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only time we've seen him without it regularly is when he's at the
chapel.
whatever you call it, the chapel. Yeah.
And when he was in Elantris, obviously. But
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to go meet the king. Surely you wear your finery to go and
Right?
meet the king, right?
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't rate the king very highly.
I feel like he would want to be intimidating going in to see the king at this
Yeah.
point, so he'd be wearing it. But maybe he was in such a hurry to get here when he heard about this murder in the middle of the night that he left it behind.
It's just a sign of how annoyed he is at Telri. It's like, I'm not bothering with the armor anymore, man. You get to see me in my red bathrobe.
I don't know why it bothers me, but when he walks in, it says the tapestries were in flames. And I'm like, well, who stopped in the middle of a fight to light fire to the tapestries? That's just rude.
Makes more dramatic
It's like
sword
that
fight.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say it's like that scene from The Last Jedi. It's just like, suddenly all of a sudden this giant red curtain thing's going up in smoke.
For some reason, you were like, it's like that scene from, and I my mind immediately went to The Princess Bride. And I'm like, where he says, my name is Inigo Montoya. Is that the scene?
No, it's not like
It's
that
nothing
at all.
like that scene. I
No.
keep doing that. I don't know why.
I described a scene that makes complete sense. You thought of a scene that doesn't make any sense.
You thought of a scene that doesn't make sense in a movie that no one mentioned. How did you get there?
I don't know. I mean, they're fighting in a castle, I think. was
Sure,
how I
rodents
got
of unusual size. Yeah.
I mean, sure, but by that logic, I could have just gone straight to Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Also
True.
good. I haven't seen
And
that
then
before,
You
though.
could have said like Dave Chappelle, like
Yeah.
dancing in front of like break dancing. Could have been the same thing, right? That's
Like,
exactly
Right,
the same.
bro? You and me?
Graytha's walking through with a hot dog, and one of the swords accidentally stares at him. He's like, "Hey!"
Not Abe Lincoln. Hey, Lincoln. But no, apparently Eondel has brought his boys to get revenge for Roial, and Wraithen's coming in. Is like, I gotta get the king out of here. Which I mean, I get it that he put a lot of work into getting this guy on the throne, and but after the way Telri's been treating him, I might be like, you know what, maybe I should just go find somebody else to be king who will actually do what he said he was gonna do.
Yeah, if you're having second thoughts, this would be your moment to just let it happen, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. He spots the king across the room, Their eyes lock lovingly. Wait, no, that's not. Telri is
That's a different
running.
book.
That's a whole different story. Telri is running scared, and Eondel's throat finds his neck and takes his head off. And then Eondel also collapses with a wound in his side. And Hrathen's like, huh. All right, then. I guess that's over. And that's
I'll
the
make
end.
my exit now.
I had to do a bit of a double take here because like we saw Eondel just like 2 pages ago, like kneeling at Raiden's feet, just going, "You're my king," and then
Yep.
we cut to him coming in and just like taking Telri's head off. And I thought to myself, like, is this actually Eondel, or has someone disguised themselves as Eondel to blame him for Telri being murdered? Because in my head I'm just like, well, we saw Eondel pledging himself to Raiden. I don't see Raiden ordering Eondel to do this. So. And then it's like, oh no, like Eondel just did this of his own volition, like the simplest possible answer. But like there was a good moment there. I'm just like, is Dilaf posing as Eondel, and he's done this to like try and fuck off Rathen a bit?
That would be a bold move.
Yeah, this is just another volcano. Me seeing shit that's actually just crazy.
So, says the guy who's like, maybe the pirate is the cook.
Like, was that me or was that Joe? I genuinely can't remember. That was a long
remember.
time ago, and we've made so many jokes about it since.
It's gone back and forth so much that I couldn't say.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember. I know me and Dak fed off of it a lot, but
oh yeah, that's why it was so funny.
It's and it just amazes me, like any of those, and Data hasn't mentioned anything about this book, but any of those people out there who think like we're reading ahead or something like that, like that's not happening. We're just talking,
No,
and we just like stuff just gets figured out. It's weird.
Yeah, like the whole like pirate
Like,
cook thing was meant
yeah,
to be our possum hunters. It was this book's possum hunters.
Exactly. We were trying to make a funny joke about a dude, and it just happened to be true. Who would have thunk?
I got to say though, Data, you did that very well. Just letting us think that was a joke. I don't know how you hold that in.
Honestly, it was hard to figure out how to come at that one because I was like, this is funny. I mean, it's true, but it's also really funny. So I guess let's just go with it. And I don't want it to sound like I'm confirming that this is a thing, but I can't just ignore this. This is great. So it's a hard line. One random note from the annotations here is that the chapter currently ends with so much for avoiding a bloody change in power. Originally, the chapter ends with Hrathen thinking to himself, well, this isn't good. And Brandon's editor disagreed with that line and thought it was too quippish.
This isn't good. This is bad. What's happening? Right, guys?
Wraithen just walks out of chapter and just goes, well, fuck sticks.
Fiddle faddle.
So the editor wanted something more serious, but also didn't think that the events were actually all that bad for Hrathen necessarily. So they kind of went back and forth and ended up with this line.
Yeah, no, I think this line works.
Yeah. Anyway, we get into part 3, The Spirit of Elantris, which was going to be the original title of the book, if you remember, and then it got relegated to a part title. And it's interesting, like, the way titles can work out, because there was, like, we were talking before we were recording about Brandon just released his most recent book in the Skyward series, and it's called Cytonic. Originally, that book was called Nowhere, and most of the fans actually really liked Nowhere as a title when he announced that was, like, the working title. But his publisher was like, look, that is not a title that's going to sell well in the audience for these books. And I was thinking, like, well, this is the 3rd book in a series. So if people probably aren't jumping in on this one, and if you are already in, you're not going to care what the book is called that much.
Yeah, exactly.
But Brandon's like, look, the young adult publishing world is not as much my world as the stuff I usually do. So I listened to my publishers. They're the experts on selling these books. So we changed the title to it's still an applicable word. I just don't think it sounds as like cool as Nowhere. But anyway.
Yeah.
And so this was his first book, and sort of the same thing happened here, where he was like, I want to call it The Spirit of Elantris, and they're like, just Elantris is going to work better. And I think it does. I think that actually makes sense here.
I'm just picturing like one of those typical bosses in like all the sitcoms, the overweight dude in suspenders, he's going bald, he's chopping on a cigar, just like, look, man, if you can't Google your book, like if you can't Google the title, like it's not going to work. So Nowhere's not going to work.
That's actually a really good. I hadn't even thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cytonic definitely works better for Googling.
Yeah. Spell checker, on the other hand.
Yeah. No, that's a whole other thing.
Cytonic.
So,
how the fuck do you spell Cytonic?
We're back to Raoden, And he's thinking how weird it is to see Elantris from the outside because he's standing up on Keen's roof, Keen's fortress of a house. And we find out as we progress here that it's actually even more of a fortress than we are aware of at this point. Because in this whole set of chapters, Keen is really intent on collapsing his entryway. Like, he brings it up like 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah, he really, really wants to do it.
He's like, no, well, we can hold out in here. But anyway, also apparently there's a secret way in or out. So also cool. But
I've cooked enough for 5 years.
Got
Behold my
so
mighty
much turkey.
Tupperware containers collection.
So Rowden's up here trying to think about what to do, and Serene is standing there with him, and she's like, man, I should have figured it out. He's like, what do you mean? I can't believe I didn't put it together. Like, I was suspicious of your disappearance from the beginning, and but I thought the king like killed you off or exiled you or something. And I like Rowden says, oh yeah, actually he tried to send me away several times. I just found ways to get out of it. And she's like, in hindsight, it's obvious the way everything was covered up, the sense of embarrassment, like that's how people treat Elantris stuff. And he's like, Serene, it's easy to see the answer once the puzzle is solved. He's like calling her out, like, yeah, it's not that clever.
Yeah, it's easy to see that Bruce Wayne is Batman when you're reading the comic, not if you're a citizen of Gotham, Serene. Jesus.
And after they have the discussion where she's basically bought into the biases that the Aerolians already have about Elantris and the way they kind of ignore it. Like, everyone else around her is doing it. It's hard for her not to kind of follow along. But she's like, and you left me in ignorance, my own husband. I was like, well, I gave you a clue. Yeah, 5 minutes before you revealed yourself. It's true. It was not very long.
Yeah.
And then we get the discussion that we've been talking about forever, where he's like, I'm not technically your husband. I mean, or it's disputable at least, because the contract says the marriage is binding if we die. I didn't die. They're kind of the same thing, but the contract words were specific. So, and like, she's like, wait a second, is he trying to get out of this now? Because I actually like him, and this is bad. He's like, no, I'm not trying to. It's just we need to make it formal so that everyone is comfortable with where things are. And she goes, yeah, I've been engaged twice in the last 2 months, and I never got a wedding. So we need to do that thing. That's fair. I mean, she got the beginning of a wedding this last time. It just went super bad. He's looking out at the market, and from the previous Wraithen chapter, he's been dropping these hints about this market where it's like, yeah, these, there were so much feudal colors and merchants in the market, and Wraithen has his reasons why. Oh, well, obviously they had to come. And here he's looking out thinking like a lot of the merchants have cut their losses and moved on, but a surprising number have stayed. And we find out in a minute that that's because they're not merchants. They are the Decor monks have shown up, and they're hiding out there in the market. And they start to talk about Roial. It's like, man, he was such a good guy. He was like a wily old grandfather, and he almost became my husband. And Ron's like, I still can't believe that. I mean, you were seriously going to marry him?
They had their reasons.
Yeah. And he says that he sent Galadon back to start teaching everyone Aeon Door so that, they can use the Aeons if they need to protect themselves. Although I don't know if they know any good, like particularly good ones that work well for protecting themselves. The fire thing would have been awesome if it could work again, but apparently it doesn't generate too much heat anymore after that first time. And we find out that last night Raoden stayed up all night memorizing healing modifiers so that the next time somebody gets hurt, he's going to be able to help them. And he doesn't know them all. He says it would take months of memorizing to get every single one, but he intends to get there. Every organ, muscle, and bone. He's going to figure out the specific modifiers to target.
It's like trying to cram a medical degree into a month.
Right?
Magical medical degree.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he does do something for Serene here, where it says it wasn't a complex Aeon. It only required a target and a length of time that the target would be affected. So basically, he can, I guess, artificially age anything. That's kind of a neat thing to be able to do beyond hair growing.
Mm.
One of my favorite things in like the latest line of X-Men comics is there's someone who can do that. Just like control the flow of time around certain objects. And so one of the guys says, hey, I've got a private whiskey collection here. Age it all 50 years for me.
Or are they in bottles?
Yeah.
Because you don't age whiskey in bottles. You age it in the barrel. That's why it gets the good flavor from the age.
Yeah, the woodsy musk.
Yeah, but Sebastian Shaw's not a smart man. He's just like, oh, I can age my whiskey? Great.
But he grows out Serene's hair for her again all the way down to her middle back. And she's like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how amazing this is. And we talked, like Jamie talked about before, like this is a thing. Like that was going to be a whole lot of time for her to grow back, and it was very sad.
Especially to your middle back.
Yeah.
That's a long time to grow your hair. Ugh.
Like, I'm sitting here like, so did he just target her hair to age? Or has she now aged an extra like year and a half or however long
I'd be
it would
pretty
take?
mad.
Surely just her scalp did.
Oh.
She's gonna go prematurely gray like a year in advance or something.
She's like, that's a very sweet thing. Why do my knees hurt all of a sudden?
Yeah.
And Rowden explains a little bit about how he managed the illusion that Joe was wondering about yesterday, where he had two illusions on basically, and he took off the top one, and then the Rowden illusion was on the second piece of cloth. But when he takes it all off, she can now see the cut on his face, and she's like, "Oh, I did that, huh? I'm sorry." And he's like, "Hey, you're a lucky woman. You're gonna have a man who can change faces at any time. You'll never get bored." Wow, kinky. Okay.
Tonight,
A
Sean
little
Connery.
weird. Tomorrow night, Nicolas Cage.
Glorious.
And he's like, "Are you gonna be able to get used to like this fit? Like, I'm kind of messed up." And she's like, "Dude, I was gonna marry Roial last week, and he was a very nice man, but so incredibly homely that rocks looked handsome when he stood next to them." Ow, he just died last night, dude.
He's not even cold.
That's harsh. And then they look out, and she's like, "What are they doing?" And there's people over there, and I like. He kind of leans forward or bumps against her, and she hates being up high. It says she locks a death grip on his shoulder, fingers biting into his flesh. Which, ow, there's some more bruises that'll never go away. But I'm not afraid of heights. I just get dizzy, okay? But Rowden has another little trick. He can create some air binoculars, basically, so they can see what's going on over there. And they spot soldiers lining up some corpses on some sheets. And the last two in line, they recognize as Eondel and Telri, and that's the end of that chapter. So I guess they needed a way for them to find out, basically, what happened, since everyone who could have told them was dead. Unless Rathan's going to march up and be like, "Oh, hey, but guys, by the way, did you know that Eondel and Telri are dead? Just thought you want to know."
Creighton's delivering newspapers.
Yeah, right.
The Viking Times.
But I guess Aish has the information, because that's what we cut to next in Serene's chapter, is Aish explaining that Eondel attacked last night. And really, we have cut down the group pretty quick. It says the remaining members of the group, Keen, Lucal, and Shuden, were gathered atop the house watching as Raoden focused his spyglass on the funeral pyres. So yeah, we lost Roial, we lost Eondel. They probably don't want a Han in their club anymore.
I was about to say he's not invited to the clubhouse anymore.
What do they do with him? I'm just looking back
Nothing.
over that.
I don't think anything is said that happens to him. I think he's just sad Royal's dead, and then that's the last thing you hear about him.
Yeah.
I imagine Keen just like turned him towards the door and kicked him in the ass, knocked him
Sure.
outside.
It's like, stay out. Well, and it says later, it says that his... Well, no, it does say later, doesn't it? Because it says that What's-His-Face is sad because his fiancée disappeared.
Yep, Tarina.
Well, it says Tarina's disappeared. It just says the future father-in-law turned out to be a traitor.
Yeah.
And like, it
So
didn't
maybe
actually
they
say...
all like hightailed it out of town, like the whole family.
Yeah.
Shuden is
It
not
just-
having a good day. It's that part.
But yeah, like the previous chapters, like the last you see of him is literally like blubbering next to Royal's body.
Yep.
So it's like, so did he just awkwardly leave after Royal died? He's like, I'll just see myself out, or did Keen turn him into a stew?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it could happen. I think that if they'd done something to him, it would have mentioned it here.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm confused. I'm just like, it doesn't say anything at all.
Yeah.
His throat didn't get crushed, unfortunately.
That we know of.
Right.
But yeah, like Shuden's best friend was Eondel, and he's gone now, and his fiance or girlfriend, I guess fiance, has disappeared. So it's just not a great day for Shuden. Not a great day for any of them, but he's sad. And then they have a whole discussion where Rowden's basically like, no, Eondel fucked us over. Like, he shouldn't have done what he did. And everyone else is trying to tell him, like, hey, look, he had good reasons for what he did. And it's interesting because this is this section where the two of them are disagreeing for kind of the first time since they're a couple now, Serene and Rowden. But she has the thing where she's like, no, I get it. Rowden is acting like a king. He has to look at it that way. And so they watch the soldiers burn the bodies, and then a bunch of the city guard start walking towards them. And Keen's like, oh shit, this could be bad. And Round's like, or it could be good. And Keen's like, no, we should collapse the entryway. Let them try to break down my door with a ton of stone behind it. And Round's like, well, trapping us inside won't do any good. I want to meet with them. And Keen's like, well, there's other ways out. Still, wait for my command to collapse your entryway, Keen. That's an order. And Keen's like, no, I don't take orders. I will do it because I trust you. But my son may call you king, but I accept the rule of no man.
Ooh, pirate. Total pirate move.
Yep. Yes, with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah. Well, and really, it does kind of explain this thing, or his opinion on being ruled, kind of explains his determination not to take like a noble title from Iadon all those years, because he was all rich and he should have been nobility, but he refused. And now it's like, oh, I get it. If you accept a title from him, then you're acknowledging that he's your king, right? And Keen's like, no, not doing that.
Yeah. Also, you know, like Baron does sound like a cool title, but Captain sounds way better.
Captain Crushthroat. I move for no man. And like Serene's surprise, it's like usually he's very jovial, like a happy circus bear, but now his face is flat and grim.
Like Bosco?
Yeah. Sure, certainly. I mean, platypus bear. It just says
bear.
Weird.
Yeah, just the confusion in that scene with them. That was great.
Yep.
But then the king's daughter eats his bear later. It's messed up.
Eek.
Anyway, that's a Avatar: The Last Airbender / Legend of Korra set of references for anyone who is not familiar.
You should watch those shows. They're great.
They are excellent shows.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with those references, either watch the show or stop listening to the podcast. Preferably
don't
the
show.
first.
Either watch those shows or we'll crush your throat.
Wow. Okay.
Just watch the shows.
The only podcast,
They're really good.
the Sanderlanche, the only podcast that'll crush your throat if you don't watch the TV they say you should watch.
Oh, no. The views of Joe do not necessarily represent the views of the Sanderlanche podcast and its affiliates.
I mean, they represent 25%.
We are the affiliates.
Yeah, I know, right? That's
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. But
In the business world, 25% makes me an official beneficial owner.
if you say so, I don't. You would know more about that than I.
No, you're gonna have to cut that out. I don't know nothing about business.
The soldiers are like, hey, we hear that the Lord Rowden, the Crown Prince of Erelon, is still alive and that he might be here. If that's true, then we need a king, please.
Those rumors spread fast.
We heard you guys had a king, maybe, just hanging around, and
That'd be
we're wondering, yeah, could we borrow a cup of king? Can the king come out and play today, or is he grounded, or?
See, this is what Rowden meant when he's like, maybe this will be good. It's like, this is what we want. Okay, good. And he's like, send messengers to all the nobility. I'm going to hold my coronation within the hour.
It's like, well, the rumors have already been spread, and I'm convinced it's like it's the Seons doing it. We joked earlier, it's like Ian was behind it, but Aish had to go, oh, what happened to those guys? I'll go find out. So Aish has gone, found out what happened to Iandale and Telri, and just sort of said to people, it's like, oh man, it sucks. If only there was another king. Oh wait, there is one. yeah, he's over in Keen's house. Yeah, you might want to look into that. See ya.
Well, I mean, Telri had a bunch of soldiers with him when he showed up and
It's true.
Roial. So I assume that when those guys find out that Rowden's alive, that's going to be the topic of conversation.
I don't have a
They're
high
like, oh,
opinion
yeah.
of the Arelon soldiers.
Yeah,
They were probably like in the middle of eating and be like, man, what are we gonna do? And one guy was like, oh, hey, I think I have an idea. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're like, well, I was hanging out with Telri the other night. We killed some guy, and something happened. It was weird. It was like this guy. He looked kind of like Iadon's son. He's like, he said he was the king. And wait, you talking about Prince Rowden? He's alive? Yeah, that guy. That's
Yeah, that's the name
Yeah.
they said.
He's over Keen, the big dude who looks like a scary pirate. He's over at that guy's house.
or a circus bear, one or the other.
A happy
Yeah.
circus bear pirate.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had like a big pirate dude and he hooked up with like a big circus bear and they had a baby. Like, that's what this guy looks like, except he's not a baby, right? He's all grown up.
All the guards are throwing on their armor. It's like, God damn it, Oswald, why didn't you bring this up sooner?
I mean, I don't know, man. I was really high.
Oh my god.
We're actually trying to stab the guy to the side, just because that's how it proves he's innocent. But I accidentally got him instead.
Right. We were supposed to put a blindfold on and swing the axe, but we just stabbed him in the belly, so it didn't really work out the way
You didn't even bring the
supposed
axe.
to do it. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I just had a sword.
The pirate had an axe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, he had an axe. I forgot.
It sounded like the baby was laughing at Joe that time.
Yep.
She was definitely laughing. It wasn't at Joe.
Yeah, I'm not that funny. Making babies cry since 1989.
Okay. Okay, so we cut to Rowden coming into the throne room, like we're cutting straight to his coronation, which I guess was within the hour, so it's not really that long a cut. But Serene is standing up there with the patriarch of the Karathi religion. That dude's still around, Zap Brannigan Pope or whatever we decided he was. And it's like Rowden had only
I love
just
how
met
shocked he is.
Yeah.
I love how shocked he is here in a minute.
But it's this Serene's description of him had been accurate. Long golden hair and a smile that claimed to know things it didn't. A self-important air were his most striking features.
Can you imagine being this guy and like you come to K and the two like official events you preside over, both of them have Elantrians in them, and you're just like, what the fuck?
No, he didn't get to preside over her wedding. Like he was upset because he was not invited to.
Oh,
it.
that's
It was Father
right.
Omen.
Yeah, it's Father
He was
Omen.
there.
Yeah. he's like, man, shit's whack here. Everybody's turning into Elantrians.
Yeah, I need to get out of here.
He looks down at his joint, just like, I really got to stop taking these.
Well, his hair is so pretty that he doesn't want to risk losing it, so he needs to get out of Dodge.
Well, he could be the next Elantrian, and that would be a
exactly.
problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think he wants to wait the year and a half to grow back his hair.
Well, like Dilaf does say later on in all this that like Teos can also become Elantrians.
Yep.
So it's just like maybe Zap Brannigan does become
Tails
an
can
Elantri
become
at some point.
Elantrians, but only if they're in Erelon at the time. And I don't remember if he says it, but that is one of the requirements.
Okay. Well, he is there, so
He is there, exactly, yeah.
it's like the hair doesn't fall out and they realize it's just a toupee.
That'd be hilarious. So I like Rowden's walking in, and he's had all the nobility rush over here basically for the coronation, right? And most of them, it says he recognized most of the faces. Many of them had supported him before his exile. Now most of them were simply confused because his appearance has been extremely sudden, as had Telri's death. So yeah, Telri just suddenly dies, and whoa, hey, Rowden's back. Rumors were widespread that Rowden had been behind the assassination, but most of the people didn't seem to care. Nobody liked Telri, so.
Look, it's an ongoing thing and has been like there was a good chunk of a decade there where in Australian politics the Prime Minister kept getting stabbed in the back and replaced by someone else.
Oh my God, that's what this is.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. This is just Australian politics. It's like everyone's just like, oh God, another one. Can this one last a term at least?
So Raoden's going to be the one that gets on the throne. Well, maybe not. The next one will be on the throne, and then put in a law that you can't stab the other ones in the back, and then we'll be stuck with someone.
That's the secret. You have to figure that out first. It's like you got to make the law after you get there.
It's got to be a law. Come on. You drank our emperor.
Oh, like this sign came just in time.
Quit it.
And so he gets up there and starts his speech, and then he feels power, like the door, but something else, something he had not experienced before, something external. Someone else was manipulating the door. I guess, yeah, he's been the only one using magic, unless I guess if Galadon has managed to come up with some practice. So he doesn't know what it feels like for someone else to be using it. That's why it's kind of a surprise. He's looking around like, who's doing that? And his eyes fall on a small red-robed form, almost invisible among the noblemen. A Drethi priest?
Yeah. So this part confused me, and I feel like we don't really get an answer for it. Is somehow his feudal magic also tied to the door? I don't understand how he's breaking magic, but Yeah, maybe
Interesting
maybe they're all tied to the same type of magic, and then
Well,
they're gonna be caught out later, and then he's gonna be like, I hate myself or something.
well, knowing what we know, or what not what we know, what we suspect from secret history, and what we've learned about shards and everything else, and we talked at like earlier on in the book, we suspect that the shard for this system is devotion. Dilaf is a pretty devoted guy to his god, so maybe that's why he can. That's why he has the ability to like deal with the power. If it's all coming from, like they said, like originally it was all one religion, and then Shu Dereth and Shu Korath split off and did other things. So it could be like it's all coming from devotion.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're right. Because now that you say that, it's like all of the magic and create and life itself on this planet supposedly comes from the shard's power. So it's not crazy to think that they're just using a different aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like, we could say the Elantrians are using allomancy and these Fjordal guys are using hemalurgy or something.
Yeah.
It's not quite like that because as far as we know, there's only one shard here as opposed to two, but.
Yeah, well, I think like in something we read in Arcane Unbound, I think it was like the essay, like they said it's really weird. Like Scadrial was a 2-shard system, all the rest of one. So I'm like, okay, well,
It definitely didn't say all the rest were one, but it definitely did say it's like, oh well, this is a special situation. There's two of them here, so
okay,
it did not discount the possibility that there are other systems with more than one.
right, okay.
But yeah, all we really know is that it feels very similar to Rowden, who is the only one that we know who could tell us really well what the door feels like. This feels the same-ish from his perspective. And Rowden says, what is this weird dude doing? And then the mood changes, and some people faint. Several people faint immediately, but most simply stare, dumbfounded and shocked, yet somehow unsurprised. They've been beaten down so much they expected something horrible to happen. Rowden knows, without even having to look, that his illusion is gone. The patriarch gasps, dropping the crown as he stumbles away. But then someone starts yelling, look at him! Look at the man who would have been your king. Look at his Elantrian face. Tell me, does it really matter? And it's Serene. She's making a whole speech. It's like, look, for 10 years you've been ruled by a tyrant because you rejected Elantris. How has that gone for you, basically? This is a guy who liked you. Does it matter if he's an Elantrian? Like, can being an Elantrian make him a worse king than Iadon or Telri? And she's like, I, for one, accept his rule, and kneels. And everyone else in the crowd starts following along.
Brilliant move.
Yeah, if Serene hadn't been here, like, who knows what would have happened. She did exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. It says some of them are kneeling in the stupor and others with resignation, but some, however, dared to be happy. And then Serene picks up the crown, and the patriarch are still stunned, so she's like, okay, I'll just do it, and puts the crown on him. And she goes, behold your king! And people start cheering. Dilaf, however, was not cheering, but hissing.
I just would like... I'd like to see that at some point. Everyone's like cheering, and someone's sitting there going...
Everybody's cat. It's like the
I don't like that.
boo. It's like later Rowden goes up to Dilaf and he's like, hey man, heard you hissing at me. He's like, well, Dilaf's like, well, there were a lot of people hissing. It wasn't just me. He's like, nah man, you were the only one.
I was saying boo earns. Yeah, and Dilaf like shoves through the crowd and runs out into the night. And Ron's like, I can't believe that happened. And Serene's like, hey, look, 10 years ago they rejected Elantrians and found that a man could be a monster no matter what he looked like. So they're willing to accept a ruler because they know that he's like a decent dude, not because of any of the other crap. And I like Ron's like, of course it helps when that ruler has a wife who can deliver a moving speech at precisely the right moment. She's like, yep, yeah, that helps too. And he's still like, how did that dude use the door? How do you make my illusion drop? This is not...
Like, after all that, Serene's just like, oh, you didn't drop the illusion yourself? He's like, no! Why the hell would I do that?
It's like, if I was going to do that, we might have talked about it beforehand or something. Like, that's not something you just decide.
Yeah, he's like, I wasn't going to just randomly put you in a position where you had to make, like, a heartfelt speech on the jump, like, randomly. That's not, that would not be cool.
Raoden asks to borrow Aish so he can send a message to Galadon, warn him to be ready for something. I don't know what, but I'm worried based on what just happened. Which, yeah, that's fair. And then we cut to Hrathen's chapter, and it's like Hrathen watched as quote-unquote Raoden. He still thinks it's an imposter.
Look, that's not an unreasonable assumption to make.
Nah, you're right. And he's just like, man, this woman is brilliant. Telri assassinated a pretender on the throne. My plans are in serious jeopardy now. And then there's kind of an odd paragraph where he looks at the guy, and he looks at how Serene looks at Raoden, and he's kind of jealous.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of felt this from the beginning, got this sense that he's kind of into Serene because she's so brilliant and able to keep up with him and stuff. So this part I was just kind of like, yeah, kind of got that sense, but he's never really said it out loud.
Yeah, and I think Hrathen is the kind of guy who would be impressed by someone who could, like you say, like could keep up with him, who was as smart as he was basically and is capable, but I feel like he's also the kind of guy who's not going to let that distract him generally, and who's used to putting emotional stuff to the side because he's so logical. So that could explain why, if he does have feelings like that we don't really hear about it. And I like it's like, how had this guy managed to capture Serene, who was normally so discerning? It's just, it's jealousy. It's cute. And as the coronation begins, he starts backing up because he's like, a lot of kings order their enemies incarcerated as their first royal decree, and so I don't want to be here when that happens. Or I don't want to remind him that, hey, maybe you want to capture this dude. And he even thinks, like, what if Raoden didn't die? What if he's been hiding in Elantris? Maybe he found a way to fake being an Elantrian also. It's funny that he comes up with this exact opposite idea of what actually happened.
Like, well, this is what I did, so maybe this guy did the same thing.
It's like he was shocked by the transformation, but even more shocked about what happened after that, when everyone just declares him king anyway. For once, he shared Dilof's disgust and was amazed the people of Erelon could act so illogically. And he's like, Dilof was right. If I'd kept focusing on making people hate Elantrians, then they wouldn't have accepted this guy. He's like, it's that damn deadline. 3 months was just not long enough to create a stable following. Although he still has a month left, he thinks. So, And so he's following Dilof, and he's like, wait, he's not going back to the chapel. Where's he going? Follows him down to the market, then loses track of him, and all of a sudden 100 torches turn on all around him. And he's like, wait, what the... Hrathen stumbles back in horror. He knew those twisted figures, arms like knotted tree branches, skin pulled tight over strange ridges and unspeakable symbols. It's kind of the first look we're getting at what these things or these guys look like. The tents and merchants had been a ruse. This is why so many fjordals had come to the market despite the chaos. The invasion of Erelon was to begin a month early. Wyrn had sent the monks of Decor.
Dun, dun, dun.
So how do you like that description? It's like their bones are weird or something.
I sort of pictured kind of like bugmen.
I honestly, it just made me think of like a cross between Koloss and oh god, I can't even remember their names now. Inquisitors.
Kendra? Oh,
Inquisitors.
Yeah, I definitely got Inquisitor vibes out of these guys, but obviously more twisted.
It's skin pulled tight over strange ridges and unspeakable symbols. So there's symbols under their skin, but they're unspeakable symbols. I don't even know what that means.
Maybe he meant
he can't pronounce it.
Yeah, he can't pronounce. He can't figure it out. No, I assume he means like he knows what the symbols are and they're so evil he doesn't even want to speak them.
Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I mean, this guy has like thinking of Darkor gives him traumatic flashbacks. Yeah. So like when he sees those symbols, he's probably just like, oh god.
Yeah, for him it's like Voldemort symbols. It's like these symbols must not be named.
Yeah.
The dark tongue of Mordor.
We dare not speak it.
We cut back to Raoden after that, who is sleeping at Roial's mansion in his old rooms that he was given as Kalu, because his wedding to Serene is not till the next day. So, they got to be separate, very proper.
Never going to get a wedding.
Right? And then he hears fighting outside, leaps out of bed, throws open the balcony doors, and there's fires blazing, smoke billowing, screams rising in the darkness. Throws on his jacket and runs through the mansion, turning a corner, and there's guards battling a group of demons, bare-chested, and their eyes seemed to burn. They looked like men, but their flesh was rigid and disfigured, as if a carved piece of metal had somehow been inserted beneath the skin. One of Rowden's soldiers scored a hit, but the weapon left barely a mark, scratching where it should have sliced. A dozen soldiers lay dying, but the 5 demons looked unharmed. So yeah, that's not good. And the lead one kills one of the guards, and Rowden recognizes him. It says, though its body was twisted like the rest, its face was familiar. It was Dilloff, the Fjordal priest.
Raiden's just like, we haven't met yet. I'm the king. Hi.
You were there for that part, so you know.
We didn't get formally introduced. Hi, how are you?
And Dilloff tells him, after they get rid of the guards, Dilloff's like, bring him, speaking of Rowden. So after he punches Rowden in the stomach, and Rowden falls down gasping in pain, which, remember, he still can't heal from any of this shit, so that's mean.
He's like, oh, gonna be feeling that one for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And then we cut to Serene. So yeah, our triad is falling apart a little bit again. And she says, make sure you deliver these tonight, as she closes a box of supplies up. And we find out that apparently she's had beggars delivering these supplies, which, remember, in the last set of chapters, it was mysterious. Like, they weren't allowed to see who was delivering the supplies.
And wouldn't you know, it's our number one beggar.
Yeah, we got Hoyd.
The sexy drifter.
Sexy Drifter's back. Woohoo.
I mean, he's not allowed to show his face, not even to Serene. Or, like, he doesn't let it. So he's like, oh, man, I can't let my sexiness get out.
Exactly. He's too sexy. She'll
fall
drop
for me.
Yeah, she'll drop Rowden like a hot potato. You know, it's like too sexy. That sexy drifter.
Yeah, it says that his face is hidden in the darkness of his hood, and she's never seen his face. But she assumed from his voice that he was an older man.
Oh, you assume wrong, girl.
So now I picture him as like a Jawa. It's like just Houdini.
Yeah. What is it? What? Suka. They want an egg?
But so yeah, she's gonna have these guys deliver some stuff, and Hoyd's like, oh, these boxes are more heavy than the other boxes you've had us delivering. She's like, yeah, here's your money. It's none of your business what's in the boxes. Just do your shit.
There was a reason he had survived a decade without being caught. Box heavy. I was like, how old is this guy? Like, all right, he's not a young man. Like, does this take place before or after Mistborn?
This takes place before Mistborn.
Okay, so if he's an old enough dude here, and then he's jumping over onto Scageville, it's like, yeah, how old is he?
Well,
I mean, I think our friend's a little mysterious.
Yeah, I think the sense that I'm getting anyway from what we've read of him is they're able to change like their appearance and age and stuff like that. But also, I mean, he could just be doing an old man voice. He doesn't, since she's never seen his face, it's very possible he's not actually old.
True.
And she's assuming that he's been here for 10 years because he's kind of the leader of the beggars who have been operating for 10 years, but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. Also, Rise of Saturn, I remember it's like, wait, he knows the shards from before they became shards. He's got to be super old.
Yeah, and
that's
we know
true,
from
yeah.
experience, that he like inserts himself and becomes like kind of a main guy in a lot of groups randomly. So
Yeah, he impersonated like a terraceman well enough that Ellen and Spook did not realize he was not one of them in Well of Ascension. And he was one of the leaders of that group somehow. So yeah, he's good at this stuff. You know, assuming that this is not just a different Hoyd from the school of Hoyds that we've previously theorized.
The school of Hoyds.
The school of Hoyds. I've forgotten about that.
This
Maybe
one's
Hoyds
lame.
means like old mate.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So Serene is gonna head back, gotta get ready for her wedding in the morning. She thinks everything's finally going. Everything's coming up Millhouse finally. We got an honorable king on the throne.
I'm getting married tomorrow.
Getting married in the morning or the afternoon, whatever. And then she sends Aish to tell the Elantrians that their shipment is coming. And hopefully Galadon and Karada would understand why she had sent a crates full of swords and bows. So yeah, there's our answer about what's in the crates that she wouldn't tell Hoyd. So she's gonna head back to Keen's house. That doesn't work quite the way she might have hoped. As she gets into town, there's the screams and the smoke and fires billowing, corpses on the cobblestones, shirtless warriors. It was a slaughter. The strange warriors killed dispassionately, cutting down man, woman, and child alike. So that's nice. And then one of them notices the carriage, and she tries to call it a warning, but it's too late. The warrior leapt, sailing an incredible distance to land on the coach horse's back. That's actually kind of impressive when you picture that. He jumps at them and lands just standing on the back of the horse to kill the coachman. And then she tries to get out. Coachman falls over, and demon dude is gonna grab her. She tries to run, but not fast enough. Something grabs her ankle. This is just, we're in a horror movie now, is where we're at here. So
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
the twisted figure loomed above her. She could hear it whispering in a foreign tongue, Fjordle. And then something dark and massive slammed into the monster, throwing it backwards. The creature howled, but the newcomer bellowed louder. And she's like, Keen? And so her uncle is there with an enormous axe, large as a man's chest, and smashes it into the creature's back as it wiggled across the stones, reaching for its sword. The axe did not penetrate far. That's not good. Whatever these guys have, it apparently stops weapons from really getting at them as well as they need to, is what we're learning.
Mm.
So Keen rips the axe back out and gives it another swing right into his face. Swings again and again, hacking at the monster's head, while Keen yells T.O. battle cries in his scratchy voice. Bones crunched, and finally things stopped moving. And he's like, Luke will collapse the entryway as they get back to his house. Finally he gets the thing that he wanted.
You think maybe, like, this is what Tarn, when he was Andon, wanted to do to Raiden in that trap way earlier in the book. And it's like, did Keen and Tarn come from the same school of thought? It's like, no, remember, always have a building you can drop on them.
It certainly doesn't hurt.
Maybe they were both pirates together. Maybe it was their thing.
Ooh.
Yeah. One of them becomes a cook. One of them becomes a sculptor. You do weird stuff when you retire from pirate life. What can you do? But apparently the lever is disguised as a sconce, and it collapses a bunch of stone into the entryway so no one can get in. No one knows what all these things are. It's like, I don't know. They just came out of nowhere and started attacking. And Keen's looking at his axe like, I swore I would never take up this cursed weapon again. And Deora's patting him on the shoulder like, it's okay. The axe has the Aeon Reo, the character that meant punishment. Why would a merchant need to know how to use one of those? And Keen's like, yeah, a merchant wouldn't. Serene knew of only one person who had used Aeon Reo, though he was more myth than man. They called him Dreyok, the pirate crush throat. And Keen's like, yeah, that was actually, that was a misunderstanding. The name was Dreyok Crushed Throat. And she
Don't you hate it when you're
the tongue
influenced and
as
they
well.
keep saying your name wrong?
Right? Jeez. Although it is more intimidating for a pirate if you imply he goes around crushing people's throats rather than someone did that to him.
Yeah.
She's
Also,
like,
crushed throat just does not roll off the tongue.
Yeah, you're right. She's like, he tried to steal the throne of Teod from my father. Keen's like, no. Dreyok wanted what belonged to him. He tried to take the throne back from his younger brother, Eventeo, who stole it while he wasted his life on pleasure trips. So there is a bunch of background in the annotations that I was going to read to y'all, because it's not something we get more of in the book. Call me melodramatic, but I think the Keen surprise is one of my favorite in the novel. I've been foreshadowing this one from almost the beginning, and while it isn't a major part of the plot, it does suddenly explain a lot about Keen's character. Keen is Eventeo's older brother. He should have inherited the throne, but he wasted his youth on pleasure voyages and exploration, visiting foreign ports while his little brother stayed behind and helped rule the kingdom. Their father was ailing, and often Eventeo would have to hold court for him and attend to other tasks of the king. Some minor crisis arrived at the same time that their father died, and Eventeo, thinking his brother unworthy of the throne, eased into the role of the king and was crowned before Keen was the wiser. Eventeo dealt with the problems of state and generally was a good king. When Keen got back from his latest trip, however, he was furious to find that his crown had been stolen from him. He demanded it back. Eventeo refused and had Keen banished. Keen, however, was popular with the military men because of the heroic figure he cut. He was the adventuring sailor, while Eventeo was the scholarly bureaucrat. Over the next few years, Keen managed to gather a naval force from pirates, deserters from Eventeo's army, and mercenary forces. It was during this time he nearly died to an accident that crushed his throat. He took the name Dreyok after the Aeon Rio and sailed against Teod, trying to take the throne by force. Eventeo won, barely, and Keen escaped with his life, barely. He went to Erlon to recoup and plan his next invasion. However, he fell in love with Deora and slowly began to lose his hard edge. A decade or so later, we have Keen, the chef and homemaker. I think it's a great backstory, he says, because of the questions it leaves. Eventeo did something that might have been right for his country, but something that was legally incorrect. All excuses aside, he usurped the throne. Keen would not have made a good king. He didn't have practice at administration, and he was a brusque, impetuous young man. However, the throne still should have been his. So that's the explanation there. What do you guys think?
The question I have is then, when did Serene meet her uncle? Like, it's been a while since the start of the book. I don't remember if that was I don't think that was their first meeting, but it's like,
No, it definitely wasn't.
So, like, if it's been this antagonistic pretty much since Eventeo became king, when the hell did Serene ever meet Keen in non-hostile circumstance?
What we get when they first meet at the beginning of the book is her calling him Hunky K, and she has memories from when she was a very young girl of him coming back from trips and like bringing her presents.
Okay,
And
so the usurping happened while she was still a child.
Yeah, it seems like it. And so, I think it says that he's been in Erelon like a little bit over 10 years because he was here before Elantris fell. But in that section I just read, it says a decade or so later, we have Keen, the chef and homemaker. So he was, if she's in her mid-20s, she was probably like 10 or so the last time she saw him.
Okay.
And when this pirate thing was happening, I guess just no one told her that Dreo Crushthroat was attacking and that her dad was fighting a war with, basically, was, oh, by the way, that's your uncle who is trying to take the throne. I don't know, maybe a lot of people didn't know. Like, if he took a new name and started a whole new thing, maybe it wasn't that well known who he was.
Yeah, I feel like I can understand the passion, but it's like, that doesn't seem like a great way to win back the throne if you say, like, I'm some random dude coming to steal it, as opposed to, I'm the older brother and it was stolen from me. I feel like that method's going to get more people on your side, but what do I know?
Right. Well, we know from what this said that, like, the soldiers, some of them were deserting to go and join him, so they at least knew.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, my guess is he basically made this move to protect his daughter from that knowledge, because he probably didn't, even though her uncle had done something terrible. It's like they were definitely hiding it from her specifically because they didn't want her to like hate her uncle. That would be my guess.
Yeah. Okay. And there's another section here that I want to read, but we'll see if it comes up in the text before we get there. We cut back to Dilloth in the chapel, and Dilloth is lecturing Horathan now. It's like, this is how you deal with heretics. And Horathan's like, but dude, you're massacring the entire town. Like, what's the point? Where's the glory for Jadeath in this? So Dilloth screams, do not question me. His eyes blazing. His raging zeal had finally been released. And so it turns out that this guy, he is the Graduate, the leader of the monastery, and one of the only two ranks that outranks a Gjorn. So you either have to be Viking Pope, or you have to be the leader of a monastery to outrank a Gjorn. And usually you don't even worry about leaders of monasteries because they stay in their monasteries and don't bother Gjorns. So it doesn't matter who they rank or don't rank.
Yeah,
apparently that has changed.
I vaguely recall back at the start of the book, they're just like, oh yeah, it's the Gjorns and then Werns. So it threw me a bit when it's like, oh, the Gragdets are above us. What? And then they explain it. So.
Well, and the Gjorns and the Gragdets or whatever, they both kind of, the way it described it earlier was that they're both directly under Wern.
Yeah.
So
it seems like the Gjorns are the guys who are boots on the ground, actually going places, and the Gragdets look after things at home.
Yeah. But I think this is the first that we're hearing that, oh yeah, also they kind of technically outrank the Gjorns.
Yeah.
So Dilloth is now also bare-chested, and Horathan can see the twisted patterns that have been hiding beneath his robes.
He's covered in bones.
Yeah. The lines and curves that ran like veins beneath his skin, they were bones. So it's like, it says the decor is the order of bone. So I guess, I don't know if there's new bones under his skin or if the existing bones have like been twisted and inscribed with symbols or somehow, or I don't know. It's weird is what it is.
Yeah. Man, I'd like to see the Kandra having a go at replicating one of these guys. Be like, oh, Jesus.
Right? So a few months after a boy was initiated into decor, his bones started to grow and twist, adopting strange patterns like those now visible beneath Dilloth's skin. Somehow each of those patterns gave its bearer abilities such as height and speed and strength. So it's like a written magic, kind of like Aeons, but inscribed into their bones magically.
Ugh.
Which, yeah, And Hrathen has like a flashback, images of priests chanting over him, memories of awesome pain, of his bones reshaping. It had been too much, the darkness, the screams, the torment, and Hrathen had left after just a few months to join a different monastery. Yeah, I don't blame you. Like, now, knowing a little more, but no, that's fucked up. I wouldn't want to be there either.
They're tattooing my bones.
Ugh. And it's not even just tattooing. It's like they grow. And,
Yeah.
Ugh.
Tattooing is where it starts.
And so he's like, you've been Fjordle all this time? And Dolph's like, really, you should have suspected. It's way easier to imitate an Araleen speaking Fjordle than it is for someone from Ireland to actually learn the holy language so perfectly. He's like, oh, Hrathen, you never did understand your place, did you? Viking Pope didn't send you here to convert Erelon. I know your orders. Reread that letter sometime. He didn't send you to convert them. He sent you to let the people know of their impending destruction. You were a distraction, something for people to focus on while I prepared for the invasion. Which, that's a little bit mean, just to Hrathen, who apparently has been one of their most efficient dudes. And also, he almost succeeded. So, just being like, nah, you're just the distraction is really not giving him much credit that he probably deserves. But apparently they always plan to murder everyone anyway, so. The people were never to be saved. Weren't always intended to destroy Erelon. He needs such a victory to ensure his grip on the other countries. Our control of Duladel is tenuous, and the world needs to know what happens to those who blaspheme against Jadeth. And Dilof's hatred of Elantris is coming into it at the same time. He's like, this people is unholy. Only Ereleans and Teos can become Elantrians. If we destroy them forever, then we destroy Elantris forever. Although we know that Duladels can also sometimes become Elantrians. And Hrathen's like, you're really going to murder an entire nation of people? And Dilof pulls in aliens, and he's like, it's the only way to be sure. Nuke them from orbit. Okay, so she doesn't come up in the chapter. Okay, so the other bit of the annotations on this chapter is back to Torina, Shuden's fiancée, Ahan's daughter. So in the original draft, Torina was Evanteo's spy in Erelon. If you remember the conversation that Serena and Evanteo had earlier, where she's like, who's your spy? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you. You'll just try to use them for your own stuff.
Huh.
So, yeah, that was Torina. And she was originally going to have a bigger part in the book. She was kind of going to be kind of like Serene's BFF. A lot of that got changed and cut. And it also, he said that it also felt when you got to the Torina reveal, and she like shows up to help rescue Serene or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it said. But he felt like this was one too far in just twists and people's secret hidden pasts and whatever. It's like this one wasn't necessary. The whole Keen thing, that's interesting. That has been built up the whole book and stuff. The Torina thing is not as interesting, basically.
So it doesn't get mentioned at all in the book?
No, I don't think she shows up again.
Huh.
And so, canonically, I guess at this point she might or might not be the spy. But when that was written, that was who the spy was supposed to be.
Was that in the draft with the crazy brother and his weird beheadings?
Yeah, probably. And so it says, so I cut most of the Torina parts, and I'm glad that I did. My early alpha reader said that the worst part about the book was how all the surprises at the end interfere with each other. It's like, looking back, some of the things I did were embarrassing. I was adding surprises just for the sake of surprises, and that's always a bad idea. We want to find out about Keen because we like him and we're interested in him. We don't really care about Torina.
I mean, that's kind of on you, Brandon.
Well, yeah, and that's where he comes back and he's like, in my defense, I originally intended for Torina to have a bigger role, be a friend for Serene, kind of like a sidekick with Aish, but there were already too many people hanging out with Serene, so I couldn't work in enough stuff with her.
Yeah, Serene's way too popular. The baby agrees.
So we move into
Every time I unmute, that's when she decides to talk.
Well, yeah, obviously. She knows. She's like, oh, I know when I'm muted. So, Rowden awoke to new pains. Scratches, bruises, and something at the back of his head. He feels himself being picked up and thrown onto a saddle. The horse is taken off. Somebody goes, wake up, Elantrian. And they took him to Keen's house. And Dilof's like, I know you hear me, princess. Look who I have. Let's make a deal. And inside, Keen's like, you realize that we can't negotiate with him, right? And so he's like, yeah, I know. I want one last chance to say goodbye. Keen's like, okay, let's go up to the roof. But if there's any bows, then we're locking ourselves back in. He does not know how serious this situation is, and he has underestimated them severely. So they get up there. Serene's opening her mouth to say goodbye, and Dilof's like, go. And there's some monks hanging out on the roof, hiding at the base of the building. They leap up the walls, foot seeming to stick as they found tiny footholds between the bricks and arrow slits, and several monks were already in place hanging from the back of the rooftop. So they grab her. They grab everyone. And Dilof's like, Hrathen, get me your sail on. We're not hiding any of this shit at this point. And Dilof calls King Eventeo. Eventeo's like, I don't know you. Who the fuck are you calling me in the middle of the night? Dilof's like, well, I'm the man who has your daughter, so maybe you show me some respect. I'm Grag Dead of Decor Monastery. And Eventeo's like, oh, that's not good. This is the person I do not want my daughter hanging out with.
And Eventeo proves how much he knows about other cultures, because he doesn't just go, what the fuck's a Grag Debt?
Right?
Yeah, he knows pretty serious.
It's true. He's already done all the required reading since he said he's going to join up.
Yep. they sent him his Viking Bible.
Was anyone surprised when Dilof is just like, I'm going to arrive in Tioras 1 hour from now. Be ready.
Yeah, I was trying to do the math on that. I was like, I'm sure Sereni came by boat, and I'm sure it's not an hour on a boat to get to Tio. How is he going to go? And I mean, yeah, if he's using the door, I think Raiden maybe was able to do something. I know, every time I hear the door, I'm like, I picture a door. Wait, especially when you've got like the two of them struggling on either side of the door using it. Inside my head. I think maybe Raiden had moved things from like one side of a room to another. So I guess it kind of makes sense that it's doable, but it is a different magic, I think. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. I mean, we end up finding out it requires sacrifice to do it. So,
Yeah, which what a sacrifice to make. Be like, hey man, we got to get somewhere real quick. So I'm going to need you to die.
Yeah. Who's paying the price? Who's paying the toll on this one?
Yeah, I think the most screwed up one is like later when he's like, I knew you were bad when you could have like made a 15-minute walk, but instead you killed a guy to get somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Yep. So there was a discussion between Raoden and Galadon earlier in the book, about 50% of the way through. There is an Aeon that can teleport you, and he tells Galadon it's actually super dangerous because you have to tell it exactly how far to send you. And if you tell it to send you 10 feet that way, it will send you 10 feet that way, even if it happens to be a stone wall that you'll appear in the middle of. So it's not something you mess around with. So it is something that you can do with Aeons, at least.
Dilof's like, just kill someone. It's more precise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the dead person navigates this. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's like when Sexy Drifter uses dead body.
His ghost boat.
Yeah, his ghost boat.
Spanky, I think was what it's called.
That's right. We call it Spanky.
Yeah, Ghost Boat Spanky, new band name, I call it.
So yeah, he's just like 1 hour. Have your people, wake your soldiers, get them on your boats. I'm going to be there. And Hrathen's like, you're going to kill all the TOs too? And I like his response. He's like, well, no, I'm not. Others get to kill all them. I just get to kill the king. So we're going to burn the ships with the soldiers on them. Just, this is all in like one night this is happening. It's kind of messed up.
Yeah, if you thought last night when Roial died it was fucked up, just, oh man.
It's true. Oh, goodness. And Hrathen's like, dude, I had Eventeo already. Like, this is not necessary. He's like, you may have converted him, but you're simple-minded if you think he'd actually allow our troops on his soil. And Hrathen's like, this is real. This is just about you and how much you hate Elantris, isn't it? Like, I seriously don't know how much of this is signed off on by Viking Pope. Like, was this all part of the plan? And Viking Pope was like, yeah, we definitely need to kill all these people. Or is this Dilof's idea where he's like, no, we're going to kill everyone?
I don't know. It seems like it's probably his idea. Like, and Wern's like, all right, it makes us mighty. That's fine. You do you, man. Like, that's why I put in charge of that monastery. You know what you're doing.
Ugh. And he's just like, don't question me, Hrathen. The Decor are outside of the law. I will not hesitate to kill you. And then kind of as an afterthought, he's like, all right, Raoden, you're still here. Forgot about you. Shove a sword through your stomach. So, yeah, that sucks.
I was like, oh man, he's gonna feel every bit of that for eternity. Ugh.
Yeah. Why does everybody always shove a sword through the stomach too? That's two of Sereni's bows who just got swords shoved through their stomachs.
Convenient stabbing height.
Most body mass there.
Raoden kind of collapses as Serene screams, and we get a section of him just like kind of psychedelic as he disappears into agony, and he falls down, and he is among the Hoed And his mantra is failed my love, which that's sad. And the monk's like, okay, what do we do with everyone else after he says that they're bringing Serene? And Dilof's like, gather everybody, take them into Elantris. You'll find the Elantrians near the center of the city in a place that seems more clean. I don't know how he knew that. Like, who told him about New Elantris?
There's fucking rumors, man.
The seance.
And the monk's like, oh yeah, no, we already found them. It's all good. They are efficient killing machines.
He hisses again here, but it's a happy hiss.
He does. A hiss of pleasure. He's a snake. So we got Lord Voldemort. Yeah, we're just there.
Lord Voldemort made of bone. Actually, the hissing could just be the wind whistling through gaps in the bone.
It's true.
It's like,
sure.
He's like, can you stop doing that? It's not me.
I'm not doing that voluntarily. It's a side effect.
He's like, make sure you gather up all the bodies, because Elantrians don't die as easily as normal men, and we don't want anyone to escape. Once you got everyone in place, bodies, Elantrians, and future Elantrians, meaning anyone else in K, say the purification rites and burn them all. And he's like, okay, Hrathen, come on, we're going to Tyros. And move into our last chapter, which is a Galadon viewpoint, at least to start with. That's new. And Galadon and Karada are hiding over in the shadows, watching shit go down. And after everyone else leaves Raoden there, they come up to him and hear his little Hoed mantra. And the last hour had been a horror. Galadon and Karada had been at the library planning how to lead the people away from Elantris. They heard the screams even at that distance, and by the time they got there, everyone there had already become Hoed. So basically, as far as they know, they're the last two walking, talking Elantrians at this point. And Karada's like, come on, we got to go. And Galadon's like, no, I have a promise to keep. Looking up the mountain towards where the pool is, he's like, Raoden made me vow to give him peace, and after I see to him, I'm going to do the same for myself. We're the last ones, and there's no room for us in this world. That's sad.
Oof.
And then we get a Lugal point of view, and with how like pithy and like jokey he usually is, this is a really depressing point of view for him, where he's just like, yep, we're all going to die, and there's nothing we can do about it. And I like the part where it's like, yeah, none of us really fought back. They didn't have any trouble, except for Keen, who fought back real hard. They had to like knock him out and tie him up, and he still gets a kick in at the people walking by. And so Lugal knew that they were marching towards their own executions. They were here to commit a massacre, and no massacre would be complete with victims left alive. Then we get Hrathen and Dilof. They're hanging out with in the circle of 50 monks and one monk in the center. We're doing a ring around the rosy type of deal. The monks began to glow, the bone inscriptions beneath their skin shining. A jarring sensation, and then Cave vanished, and they reappeared in an unfamiliar city, which is Teoras. The man in the center of the circle did not make the trip. That monk had been fuel, his flesh and soul burned away, a sacrifice in return for their instantaneous transportation. Yeah, that's hardcore. Like, Dilof chooses a roof for everyone to climb, and one of the monks picks up Hrathen and throws him over his shoulder and carries him up there, despite his plate armor, which he is now wearing. Then they just drop him onto the roof, like, whatever. And Dilof's like, we're early. We'll wait a bit. Because, yeah, I guess it didn't take him nearly an hour to gather up and go.
Serene's just giving him the eye.
Yeah, you know, what? I don't blame her.
No, yeah, no, not the slightest.
Then we cut back to Galadon, who is kicking himself for having been taken in by Raoden and his optimism. And man, I should just kept sitting in the damn street and let this guy trick me. Dolokin Sule, you certainly made a mess of me. And it says Galadon had stood amid the carnage screaming at Raoden for abandoning them, for leaving them behind. The prince had betrayed them for Serene, which I don't think is entirely fair, Galadon, but okay. I kind of skipped over the part where we get details on, people's arms and legs missing and faces crushed by rocks, and I don't think we need to go into
That was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to revisit that.
I'm sure Maurice is still out there somewhere. He's just he's created a dummy of himself. Like he's just invented that somehow.
Life model decoy, yeah.
Yeah, and now he's roaming the countryside free as a bird.
So yep, Galadon and Karada are carrying Raoden up the mountain. They have to rest every once in a while because they're still, weak-muscled Elantrians. We cut back to Lugal, who is Elantris was dark. They're all being held prisoner, and there's a bunch of Fjordals gathering up an enormous pile of wood. Gotta get a good fire going to burn all these people. Lugal had tried to convince his wife to plead for freedom because she was Svordish, but she would not go. That's bold. Only Aiden stands apart from the family, staring at the pile of lumber. And then
I
we notice,
completely
Yeah.
forgotten about this guy.
right? We find out some interesting stuff in this chapter about him, but
Yeah.
he is kind of easily forgettable. He doesn't show up that often.
So I hadn't forgotten about him. In fact, I kept wondering. I wonder if we're ever gonna find out what his deal is. But then when we find out, I'm kind of even more confused. So,
Yeah, right?
like, did they know he was an Elantrian and they just disguised him as a normal person so that he could stay with them?
Yes, that is exactly what happened. Basically, is he woke up one morning transformed, and his family's like, "Yeah, we're not telling anyone and getting him sent into Elantris. Fuck that."
Yeah.
And it's foreshadowed because we've had several times where Keen's family is suspiciously knowledgeable about what Elantrians are like.
Right. And that's what I was about to say. That would make sense then, because even his young kids knew, like, no, that's Elantrians. Yeah, that's how they are. They don't eat. It's like,
Yeah.
no, Aiden's an Elantrian. He doesn't eat.
Oh, that hadn't occurred to me. It was like, okay.
Or he doesn't need the food or whatever.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because he doesn't eat it, but surely he's hungry. But
yeah,
if
he
he's
eats it, I'm
Hoed?
sure, but he doesn't need it. It seems like he is Hoed. I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
that's the
I don't
impression
think he
got.
is.
He doesn't
is.
like he's not going to mantra,
But his mind
he
seems
does
broken, though.
obsessed with steps.
So yeah, and Brandon has written subsequently that he feels bad about how he wrote this extremely stereotypically and has tried to improve that in later. But basically, he's severely autistic. And
and
so
then he
that's
became an
what we're seeing.
Elantrian.
Yeah, and then he became an Elantrian.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So, and now the thing that gets me is like, all right, so the family all knew he was an Elantrian. Casey runs her mouth all the damn time. I am astonished she never once let that
Right?
slip.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
If- yeah.
I would assume this was probably the family's most guarded secret, and they told them, like, you can't ever tell anyone or they will take your brother away. Like, you can't say anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, she just doesn't seem to think before she talks a lot of the time. So I was like, all right, you did well then.
No, yeah, I mean, I agree. I would have expected Casey would not be able to keep her mouth shut. I have known lots of young girls that are like that. They get going and stuff just flies out that they know they're not supposed to say. But we don't actually. I mean, they're homeschooled. We don't actually know how much they interact with people who aren't their family. Honestly.
That's true.
Anyway, Lucal notices shooting in over there, starting to do some movements, like the dance thing that we saw him do once upon a time. And Lucal can tell that he's getting ready to fight, and he practices this thing for exercise, not for combat. But he's like, this guy's not gonna let everyone be murdered without doing something. He'd rather die struggling than sit and wait. And Lucal feels ashamed by this. His eyes find a table leg that one of the soldiers has dropped nearby, and he goes, when Shuden fights, he's not going to do it alone. Probably completely pointless, but I mean, you're going to die either way, so why not at that point?
Yeah.
We go back to Rowden, who's floating in agony, basically, getting flashes of Galadon and Karada and the mountain, but not caring about any of it. And then we cut back to Hrathen and Dilloff, and we get Dilloff's backstory, where, yeah, Rowden found this story once upon a time of a person. They made the healing Aeon missing one of the basic lines, and it turned them into something that sounded very much like an Elantrian. And it turns out that this woman was Dilloff's wife. And he was sent to Erelon, changed. My body had been twisted and destroyed to fit the mold of an Ereline. So they magicked him to look like he was from Erelon and young, because he's nearly 70, but he looks like 20 still. So they sent him to Erelon. He says, I was already 50 years old back then, so around 20 years ago, they sent him to Erelon to start spying or getting ready for the eventual destruction, or who knows exactly. Meets a woman, falls in love, she marries him, even though, he feels like he's so twisted his beauty was destroyed to make him look like an Ereline, but whatever. She was fine with it.
Yeah, which she had loved him as a bone monster.
Ugh. She got sick, and he took her to Elantris, knowing that it was blasphemous. Even 40 years as a Decor wasn't enough to keep me away when I thought that they could save her. They said the spell went wrong, but I know the truth. They knew me, and they hated me. Why did they have to put their curse on her? She screamed at night, yelling that the pain was eating her from the inside, and eventually threw herself off the city wall. I found her at the bottom, still alive despite the fall, and I burned her. She never stopped screaming. She screams still. I can hear her, and she will scream until Elantris is gone. Which, damn. Okay.
That's a horrible way to live. That's a horrible torment.
God.
And it's
I
really traumatizing. Like, even for someone like Dilaf, that's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, Murder Monk needs therapy.
Yeah, he needs serious therapy. I get it now why he hates Elantris so much the whole book, but geez, that's nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, they we cut back to Galadon and Karada just resting again one last time before they throw people in the pool. Raoden and then him, Galadon, and maybe Karada also. And then we cut back to Lukel. He's watching them pile up the Elantrian bodies, and Aiden decides that he's going to walk out there. This is just a strange picture. This kid like walking out. Somebody slashes him with a sword, and there's no blood, and he just kind of flops down in the pile of Elantrians. After Aiden's secret of 5 years had been revealed, he had joined his people.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Did he want to be with them this whole time? Like, that's awful.
that's a really good question. Like we have no access to like what he's thinking really. And we come back to Dilaf being like, I remember you, Wraithen. I remember you as a boy when you came to us just before I left for Erelon. You were frightened then as you are frightened now. You ran from us and I watched you go with satisfaction. You're far too weak. And Wraithen's like, what, really? You were there? It's like, I was Gragdid already. Don't you remember me? He's like, yeah, you were the one who convinced me to leave. In my 3rd month, here's what Joe's talking about. You demanded one of your monks use his magic to send you to Wern's palace. He gave up his life to transport you a distance you could have walked in 15 minutes. And Dilaf's like, yeah, well, absolute obedience is required, and sometimes you got to make an example to bring loyalty from the rest. I don't see how that would make the rest more loyal, that they know you might demand they sacrifice themselves for a stupid fucking reason, but whatever.
Yeah, that seems to just be saying, like, I don't give a shit about any of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever. He's like, okay, come on. The Teo Armada has docked. They will not be able to stop our fleet. I have one duty left, the death of King Eventeo. And here's where we get back to Raoden's mind, and he starts to come up with something. He sees Aeon Reo, which his name is clearly based on, a large square with 4 circles around it, lines connecting to the center, a widely used Aeon, especially among the Karathi, for its meaning, spirit, soul. And he realized that Elantris, with its 4 walls, forms a square, and the 4 outer cities surrounding it, their borders circles with straight lines leading to Elantris. He feels he has figured something out. Not that he can say anything. Then we go back to Lukel. The soldiers are pouring barrels of oil on the bodies. 3 shirtless warriors standing to the side, singing a chant. Not just singing, that would be weird. It's like, yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum.
Gonna build me a pile, gonna set it on fire, gonna throw the parties on, and we'll all have a drink.
Back to King Eventeo. Like, we're really just jumping.
Yeah.
And Wraithen and Dilaf are there, ready to do their thing. And Wraithen is still conflicted. He's like, we're doing what Wern apparently wants us to do. The Fjordal Empire is going to win, but I was supposed to save these people, not slaughter them all. He does not like what's going on, basically. And Dilaf is over here whispering, like, you, princess, are a disease. Before you came, even the Aerolines hated Elantris. You're worse than they are. You're one who's not cursed, but seeks to be cursed. I considered killing your father first and making you watch, but now I see it will be much worse the other way around. Think of old Eventeo watching you die, princess. Ponder that image as I send you to Jadeth's eternal pits of torment. Which I don't know that we'd heard he had eternal pits of torment before, but I buy it. It sounds on par.
Yeah. That's their
very
brand.
Jadeth.
Yeah.
Back to Raoden, who is trying to claw his way out of his own mind because he thinks that he's come up with an idea and he needs to actually try to do it, but he can't get back in control because of the pain, and he feels himself being pulled towards something round and blue, the pool. He's like, no, not yet, I know the answer. Raoden screams suddenly, twitching. Galadon was so surprised that he dropped the body. Raoden stumbled forward, trying to get his footing, and fell directly into the pool, and that is the end of our section.
Oh,
That's
shit.
unfortunate. Jeez.
Oh, why could I figure this out before we got here?
Thankfully, after this fine episode of our podcast, we can just finish it.
Yeah.
No joke. So yeah, what do you guys? Let's do predicaments. What do you guys think? We got 3 chapters and an epilogue left. How's this gonna go?
Okay. Braden's not dying in the pool. I feel like he's unlocked like some secret he's figured out. He's gonna see what actually happens in the pool, why people dissolve, and he's sort of going to use that power, come back out, and he's going to have full access to the Elantrian magic. So he's probably going to go zip straight everywhere he needs to go and save people. and yeah, I don't know like the how or the why of it, but he's basically gonna use all the Elantris magic to show up and do what he needs to do, and he's gonna save everyone. He's gonna Superman his way through it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Again, my predictions from last time still stand.
I think he's going to. I think to die in the pool, you have to be willing to die. I think maybe that's part of the magic of it. It's like, because if they had ceremonies in that pool, it seems unlikely that Elantrians would be like, all right, just shove him in there. So I almost wonder if maybe they themselves would walk into the pool and lay somebody who is ready to pass on into the pool, and they had to be like willing to basically end their life, because that would make sense in their system of magic. Like if somebody just decided like, I've lived a long time, I'm ready to leave. I feel like I've done everything I need to do. So maybe the pool is more about like you have to have some kind of willingness to be gone for its magic to work. So I think maybe he'll be in the pool, and then it'll be kind of like a funny moment of like, oh, nothing happened. Well, good. I figured it out, guys. And then, yeah, I kind of agree with Dak. There's going to be like some kind of magical, mythical way to basically make everything better. It'll be like, a guy that we all know and like. He sticks both his arms into a power and then becomes really powerful and then makes everything right again. It'll be like that. Something. I mean, I've never read a story like that, I don't think, but it'll be like that.
Okay. So kind of this along the same lines Dak was thinking.
Yeah, I was making a joke about the Mistborn books, but nobody laughed, so I guess I'm moving on.
So I think I missed part of Joe's prediction, so I'm sorry if I come up with something similar. But I do think that Raiden is going to magically save the day. We're going to go optimistic and say that he's going to. I think he's the first one who's been able to get a moment of clarity out of being Howard. So I sort of agree that, once you're in the pool, like willingly, you've got to want to go. I think he'll be able to, effectively breach the surface again after being in there. I'm kind of hoping that if he manages to emerge, that he would just be healed or restored or something about what he can do in there unlocks the rest of the door somehow, fixes it, or gives him enough opportunity to be able to fix it. And yeah, he'll be able to do something crazy superhero magic like to save everybody in the end, or everybody that's left. I think we still will be okay with that. Possibly because we've had a few mentions of time as well, and I didn't really think about Sereni's hair being as a sort of jumping forward in time of what that particular object is like, but he's also talked about being time, I guess, like floating, and was just time. So I don't know, maybe he'll be able to rewind some time to get them what they need to get things fixed. I'm not sure. He might do a time turner situation and be able to run around and fix things. I'm not quite sure there, but maybe we'll get something like that. Sorry, Bubby, you just have to wait a minute. My other thoughts is that Dilaf caused the original. Is it the Raod?
Yeah, with the fall of Elantris, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, he maybe knew enough about the magic. I mean, he knew that the line was drawn incorrectly. If he knew what Sereni knew about it being based on the landscape and the map, if he knew sort of what Sereni knew, maybe he knew if he disrupted the landscape, they'd draw the lines wrong, and that would curse them. Maybe he was happy with that for a while, but didn't count on them all living forever. I don't know. Maybe that just wasn't enough. Now bought him some time. They could live cursed like his wife did for a bit, and then he can end them all so it doesn't happen again. Don't know, but he's definitely got some magic knowledge and mysterious abilities that I reckon if anyone could pull it off, Dilaf could. Maybe Raiden will be able to, in the pool, look at what else has changed and fix it, draw the lines correct again, and he's good to go. So
okay.
Yeah. But that's my thoughts for the rest of the book. I think we will. I don't think Eventio will die. I think Sereni will die. I mean, if we lost Sereni and Raiden, that's a pretty sad way to end the book.
Yeah, no, that would be a downer. You're right.
Galadon's adventures, or everyone's gone and then Hoyd is just left. I don't know. Drift on to another place. Yeah.
I'd read the Galadon Adventures. That sounds fun.
It does sound fun. I mean, because he's a dual and he's famous for everything. So, you know, bit of a downer as well. Maybe traveling through the Cosmere to have his spirits lifted. I don't know.
This is just Azar.
There's a bunch of good spin-off opportunities, like the Adventures of Drayok,
Yeah.
Galadon.
Maybe Keen decides to pick up the axe again, and Keen and Galadon will sail the seas. I would read that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Galadon is a depressing enough guy that you need somebody else there. Like he not by himself. He needs somebody to lighten him up a little bit.
Absolutely.
I don't know that Drayok Crushthroat is a good person to lighten him up exactly, but somebody. Okay, I guess let's. We got one email this week that I'm gonna read real quick. It's a very short one, so if I can find it, there we go. It's from Jordan, and Jordan says, so Spotify is doing a thing where they create a playlist based on what you listen to in 2021. I'm actually a Spotify premium member, but thanks to y'all, my top 3 songs for 2021 are all Miracle of Sound. So thanks. But actually thanks, because they're great. That's it. So thanks, Jordan. Glad that you discovered some good music.
That's all Data. He picks all the music, so.
Yeah, it's all on me. I do love Miracle of Sound, though, so, it's just glad that you're enjoying it. If anyone else would like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and YouTube is mostly caught up. I guess since we recorded an episode yesterday, I can't call it fully caught up anymore, but we're mostly there. So
I feel like the emails have dried up a bit this book.
No, you're right, and I think that part of it is Elantris is not as popular as like the Mistborn books, so. And there's not as much maybe meat that we've talked about that people can chime in on. It'll be interesting to see what happens when we get into some other stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
For next time, we are going to read the remaining 3 chapters, 61, 62, and 63, plus the epilogue. And I almost said the whole rest of the book, but that's not technically true, because for the episode after that, we're going to read some other stuff that's at the back of the book. So just as a tease here, we're not reading this yet, but there's after the epilogue, a section called the Ars Arcanum, which is also in the Mistborn books. But there's 2 parts of the Ars Arcanum. There's a section called On Aeon Door, and there's a section called List of Aeons. We're going to be reading the On Aeon Door section. You don't have to read the List of Aeons. But so that's going to – it has some interesting – I remember Chris that we met wrote all of these Ars Arcanums in the various books. So she's got some interesting commentary on how the magic in this world works. And she brings in a little outside knowledge to maybe help us understand some of the stuff that's going on. So in the next episode, that'll be some of what we talk about. And also in your 10th anniversary editions, there is, and I don't know if it appears in your table of contents at all, but after the Ars Arcanum, there's deleted scenes where you can find the Mad Prince stuff. If you want to read that, we won't talk about that on the show. But then there's a postscript. And then in my table of contents, it jumps directly to about the author after the postscript, but there's actually a very small section in between the postscript and the about the author that is secretly hiding in there that we're also going to be reading for that next episode after we finish the book. So,
man, we gotta do some digging.
Ooh,
yeah,
stuff.
There's some tiny hidden gems inside the end of the book, and then after that we're going to move over to a short story from Arcanum Unbounded that happens at the same time as the last few chapters of this, or actually I guess at the same time as what we're reading now is the short story happening with some other characters.
Sexy Drifter, Hoyd.
So it's called The Hope of Elantris is the name of the short story. So that's another thing we're going to be reading. And I don't feel bad about like revealing all the stuff ahead of time because it's anyone who knows we couldn't put The Hope of Elantris anywhere else. It's happening at the same time as this. So it wouldn't make sense to read it at any other time other than next. So yeah, that's where we're going. Anyway, but for next time, 3 chapters and the epilogue, and then stop there. Don't read further in the book because that will be for the next episode.
Okie dokie.
Fair enough.
So, yep, we're right at the end of this book. It's very exciting. And then, like I said, The Hope of Elantris. And then what are we moving on to after that? It's a secret.
Oh, secret tunnel through the mountains.
We'll announce that on that episode where we do the Ars Arcanum and The Hope of Elantris short story and stuff. We will let everyone know what we're reading next. Very exciting. We're moving on to something else once again. So,
Cool.
Yep, that's what's coming in the near future. Music by Miracle of Sound. Thank you, everyone, so much for sticking with us through pretty much all of Elantris now, and I hope you're all as excited as I am to get into the interesting and magical, mysterious stuff that is happening elsewhere in the Cosmere. We're gonna jump around again before too long to other planets and things. It's a very exciting time. And like I said last time, we're probably going to end up returning to Scadrial sooner than I'd originally intended. But that's not to say that that's next or anything. It's just that we were going to spend like 2 months on the White Sand graphic novels, and now we're pushing that back a little bit. So it moves everything else up a couple months. So yeah. Anyway.
Crazy.
Yeah, you know, I'm you guys are just like, whatever. We didn't know anything about what the schedule was before, so
Yeah.
well, that doesn't tell us jack.
Yep.
But yeah, so
I'm just flying
No
by the
changes
seat
there.
of me pants.
So, what's the schedule? It's secret.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh.
But when we started this
Oh.
episode, I ordered Dak and Jamie the next full novel that we're going to be reading, so y'all will get that in the mail soon, and then you'll know what full book we're going to next. There's some short stories in
Yeah.
between. So
As long as
Oh,
Australia
tell me,
Post
please,
actually
just
gives
tell
it to us.
yeah, well,
Oh, yeah.
we'll see. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening and hanging out with us, and wasing to the time of next, everyone.
Colo?
Yeah, I got it.
My bad.
My name's Tuelador. Get out in the city of dreams. Get up, now we're setting you free. Get out, the voice will never die. Feet upon the ledge, running out on the edge. Ghosts in the city of dreams.
I mean, look, I've been watching a lot of cooking shows and baking shows and things on Netflix at the moment. I have a fair amount of time where I am feeding small child and not doing anything else.
Nope.
So that's pretty good. Man, Crushed Throats taking on the seas or something. What an epic cooking show. I would watch
Oh my
the
God.
shit out of that.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
Pirate
Today
Gordon
on
Ramsay.
Crush Throat, you will have to prepare octopus, but not just any octopus. This octopus has been swallowed by a giant squid. Begin!
Wow, yeah,
Like,
that
elimination
would
would
be
be brutal.
a thing. Yeah, you just get fed to the giant squid.
He just punts him off the ship.
Yeah, just like they all have to walk off a plank as soon as the show starts.
You have the weakest dish of the day. Walk the plank.
Winner gets an extra tot of rum.
Yeah, now we need just a pirate themed cooking show where you have to walk the plank when you lose it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's like the floor is lava, but with a cooking show. People are just dramatically like, no.
Today you must cook. You must prepare the shark for cooking before the shark prepares you. Ha